Now, for our next story on the role of water in sci-fi literature, we're going to go to my colleague Dr. Reshmina William from Isle in the USA. Now, there is a reason why Reshmina was the perfect person to explore the topic of water and sci-fi. Reshmina, over to you.
One thing most of you don't know about me is that alongside my work as an engineer, I'm also an avid reader and creative writer. And it's in that role that I'm here today to talk a little bit more about the role of water in science fiction. But before I dive in, let's start with a definition. What exactly is science fiction? I like this definition by Robert Heinlein, widely acknowledged as the godfather of modern sci-fi. He says that science fiction is realistic speculation about possible future events based solidly on adequate knowledge of the real world, past and present, and on a thorough understanding of the nature and significance of the scientific method. In other words, science fiction lets us explore scenarios based on real-world knowledge, allowing us to tweak the parameters ever so slightly to allow us to ask what-if questions about our current society. In beginning our exploration of water in the context of science fiction, I'd like to start with a classic. Now, we've talked about Dune on the Water Action platform before, in the context of the science of Dune and the science of still suits in particular, but I'd like to take a moment here to discuss how Dune talks about the relationship between water and faith. In Dune, water is so ingrained into the culture of the Fremen people that it's become a core part of their religious beliefs. Tears are considered sacred, and even in death, the individual's water is returned to the community in the form of death stills. Water is also entrenched in the Fremen's faith in the coming of a green Arrakis, the terraformed planet of prosperity and peace for future generations that they believe in so strongly that they're willing to go to war for it, even if they're not around to enjoy it for themselves. Kim Stanley Robinson's 40 Signs of Rain takes a very different approach to water. Robinson uses the lens of water and climate change to focus on how we think about science, the nitty-gritty detail of how science gets made in the everyday world, and how that science is perceived by the movers and shakers of society. His multidimensional cast of Buddhist monks, NSF scientists, technologists, political advisors, and diplomats are all trying to communicate the dangers of a changing climate. However, this is a cautionary tale of how even scientists can rationalize the irrational, and how it's all too easy to minimize the dangers of a slow-moving communal trend in lieu of individual gains until it's too late. Strikebreaker is a short story from the Nightfall collection by Isaac Asimov that explores the relationship between social taboos and the menial tasks critical to the survival of a civilization. The asteroid colony where the story is set relies on the efforts of a single family to recycle their waste into valuable resources like water. Due to their contact with this undesirable material, however, the family has been delegated to a class of untouchables, shunned by society. Unable to take the social isolation anymore, the most recent waste handler goes on strike, and the colony comes to the brink of collapse. On this world, as in our own, social constructs, not engineering principles, are the point of failure for a society built on haves and have-nots. And finally, we come to The Water Knife, a story set in the not-so-distant future where disputes between the Western United States over the allocation of water rights have devolved into an all-out war. Set against this grim backdrop are surprising moments of hope. Water brings communities together, whether that's groups of Texan refugees sharing their limited supplies, or hard-nosed journalists following the water and the money to uncover an unexpected way to help save our city. At the same time, The Water Knife doesn't shy away from showcasing the turmoil and destruction left behind by the callous, individualistic hoarding of water by those in power. Now, throughout this conversation, I've been highlighting stories about water, but really these are foundational principles that are the backbone of any good story. Stories teach us important things about ourselves and how we fit into the communities and the societies around us. They give us the chance to explore, to safely test out new ideas and concepts, and to metaphorically walk in each other's shoes. And that brings me to my final point. which is that in our work as scientists, we take on the role of storytellers. And the reason for that is that we tell stories in a wide variety of ways. Yes, through the written word, but also through images, through music, and through data. We do that to make sense of a world that can be vast and terrifying and beautiful, and to find our context and our place within that world. Our responsibility is to go on telling those stories and to allow those without voices to share theirs. Only then can we truly help to shape a more just and sustainable future for everyone.
Thank you, Reshmina. What a great message. If you share Reshmina's interest in sci-fi and/or water in literature, please reach out to her directly on the details here. She'd love to hear from you.